Hello and welcome to episode 141 of Masters of the Forge. My name is Adam, and this is Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Adam.
And Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Mark's from our local gaming group here in upstate New York. I'm glad you could join us.
Glad to be here.
So Mark is here so that Jason and I can totally phone in this episode. It's the best. You too can join us on an episode and talk about your Warhammer 40,000 lore, and and let us phone in our episode as well. Even if we don't even care if the lore of your army is based on a Saturday or a weekday cartoon television show that's not a cartoon. We're down with that. We're ready. Our bodies are ready.
Wait, what?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
You'll find out.
Don't worry about it. So, we're gonna start. We're gonna launch right into hobby progress. Jason, what the have you been up to?
Okay, so what have I been up to? So this past week was kind of a short week. A little bit of a background on this past episode. We recorded on Sunday, and I was done with it on Monday night.
Mm-hmm. Crushed it.
So yeah, I went through, got it done really quickly because it's the end of the semester, and as you might have noticed, April for the last 3 years, that's always the month where it's like, we know Jason exists, we know he's into this game, but he's not really here right now. So anyway, short weekend of the semester. Okay, but I have done some stuff. So last year, like I think in I don't know,
Marchuary?
September? Sure, whatever. You know how the months are now running into each other. I ordered a Bob Ross chia pet head because it's Bob Ross and it's a chia head, and someone had done this really cool AdMech conversion of it, and I think it was on the Independent Characters forum. And I thought, this will be really cool, and I was going to originally do it as an AdMech terrain piece, but I just couldn't, it was cool, but I just couldn't find the inspiration. And I was talking to one of my buddies, Keith, and I decided I was going to go orky with it.
I love it.
Well, because I was adding pipes and whatnot to it, because this is what I could do, and I kept looking and thinking, I'm not feeling it, And then I was like, how about if I start adding broken stuff to it? And then I was like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So it's getting orked up. There's a hole in the head, and I'm going to use that as a turret, but I kind of don't know what rules to run it as, just because I'm not familiar with those rules, or for artillery pieces. So I just have to kind of look at that, and I've got plenty of stuff I could slap on there to make it, look explosion. And it's already got, I've got a broken microphone part on it. That one of the mics I use has the shock mount on it breaks all the time, so I have 4 broken shock mounts. I was like, I can use this. Let me see. I also had this big coffee scoop that was big and robust in plastic, and I slapped that on there, and a couple of other things. So, and I want to add a lower orc jaw, the iron jaw thing, so it looks like he's got that kind of weird underbite. So that's one thing. And then Keith, this is one of my locals, he's in the Inquisition Wars campaign with me. He asked if I wanted this battle wagon that he had, because it was. Yeah, well, he asked, I was just like, well, why would you want to give it up? And he said, well, there's some pieces missing, and you seem to enjoy slapping those things together, so...
yeah, battle wagons rule.
Yeah, his comment was, you'll do it right. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll take it. So I'm supposed to pick that up sometime the next week or so. Texas just reopened, but, everyone's being really cautious, so... let me see, what else... Oh, I ordered the Canon and the Sister of Battle, those made-to-order models from G-Dubs. And I think we're supposed to get the Canon from Adepticon. That was supposed to be part of the swag bag.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I have two of them, that's fine because Blood Raven's got a Blood Raven.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, how many librarians do I have? And that's,
Or you could also make one into a Thousand Sons Terminator Sorcerer.
Oh. Yeah, I could.
An idea.
Yeah, that is an idea.
Duh.
Yeah, I never run Terminators, so that's, but yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Not that the Blood Ravens haven't...
Of course it's a good idea!
So anyways, that's my week. Not a lot of stuff, short week into the semester, blah, 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 blah.
Good.
What about you, Adam? What's happening?
Oh, yeah. This week has been a lot of spending time with loved ones. I've been doing a lot of that, so I haven't really done a lot of hobby.
Yeah.
I am working with James to get the 100 Marines for charity going.
Yeah, I saw that.
At 1 hour a night. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Though some folks, like one guy is like it's this week they've been posting stuff on where to send the models. Stuff's being sent to my house, but I think some people didn't get the memo that it was a charity auction.
Yeah.
So like one dude's like, you can take someone else can do my chapter. I'll be keeping my mini. Thank you. And he left the group like, whoa, it's okay. It's not required. You don't.
Yeah.
We can. That's fine. You don't have to be like. You don't have to leave the group over it. It was weird. And unfortunately, the folks in Australia who participated would have to spend like $90 to ship their model. So, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to send your model. We can get somebody else to paint it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be real awesome. I'm not sure James wants me to reveal like what we're really gonna be doing as the auction, but I hope that we'll get more money than people put into it, like shipping all these models to me. But I think we will. I think it'll be good. It's gonna be for the Table War charity. I think
good.
I think they did the drawing for their other. For the,
they did it yesterday.
They did it yesterday. Yeah, I obviously didn't win because I didn't hear about it. Like they would have. A, they would have emailed me, and B, like 100 people would have tagged me. So I clearly didn't win, which is fine. That's not the point. I put all of my money into the Gotrek Gudrunson guy because I thought that was really cool. And at the time, he only had like 9 tickets sold. I'm like, that's really sad. I'm gonna put my tickets over there, and it's a gorgeous model. So Wendy's been bored. She's been pretty bored, and she's been a little jealous of me playing games with all these people. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm gonna call your bluff, and I pulled out the Blood Bowl box. I could tell that she immediately regretted her decision. So I brought the dwarf team upstairs. I think I might start working on that, and also Brian's been working on his Drukhari. Brian from the Splinter Mind podcast, his Drukhari Battlefleet Gothic fleet, and that's kind of got me. I had just a few weeks ago stuffed all those miniatures into a plastic container. Then I dragged them all out, put them on a spray rack, and I hosed them down with Rust-Oleum, deep blue gloss and bright blue gloss. And
I saw that.
I just started painting some yellow. So most of them are going to have the orc ships have a head on them, like a face, an orc face. So I just put, most of them will have the face yellow, but then I'm gonna differentiate squadrons of the same type of model with different, so one group has the tail fin yellow, another group has the belly yellow or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm going to work on those. I think those are going to... Once I get the yellow, like a nice, deep, rich yellow on there with the Averland Sunset, I'll probably go ahead and gloss coat them again and do an oil wash. Because
Oh, that's a good idea.
Right now, I've painted them so many times that I think a dry brush won't take very well. So
okay.
but I think an oil wash will. So we'll see. Right now, all I have is turpentine. I'd rather do it. I'd rather clean that oil wash with actual mineral spirits. So, and I know my local, my friendly local hardware store doesn't have it. The last time I went there, he's like, well, we have this, and he showed me the turpentine. I'm like, that's not mineral spirits. He's like, well, it's the same thing. I'm like, it's not the same thing. It's literally, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's that. So I started cutting into those bicycle spokes that I got ages ago for this purpose.
Okay, so
for making
talk
the stands.
me through that.
Okay, so originally, all the Battlefleet Gothic stuff came with your usual Games Workshop flight stands.
Okay, the plastic ones, yeah.
Yeah. Now imagine a 5-pound hunk of metal on one of those plastic flight stands.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, so usually we would use the really long flight stands, not for any aesthetic reason, but because it's going to break multiple times. So when a flight stand breaks, what you do, since you don't have enough flight stands, what you do is you take a lighter and you melt the end of it and you stuff it in the hole until the next time it breaks, and you do the same thing over and over again until all you have left is a little nub of a flight stand. That's literally how that was working. So,
nothing dangerous about that.
no, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
So my buddy, there was a guy on the Freebooter forums who used to make aluminum flight stands that fit perfectly, but he is no longer doing that, which is sad. I still have some for my Defcoptas. They're amazing. But, I bought some bicycle spokes, and nothing I have is cutting them very well. Brian suggested I buy a 100-tooth saw blade for my chop saw, and he's like, yeah, you'll get it done in like a second. Okay. But I guess, so I was looking, and the one he suggested is $100. Who buys a saw blade for $100? He's like, well, you'll never have to buy another saw blade again.
Hold on, where does he live again? In a forest? He has to cut down trees to get home, often. Yeah, so.
And he's handy. Yeah. I guess if you buy one of these saw blades, you never have to buy another saw blade.
Yeah.
Like, they're that good.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm just going to sit there and break my wrist cutting it with snips or something. I don't know. We'll see. But they work really well. They're just the right width to fit into the hole that's bored out in the GW miniatures. And also in the flight base. I wasn't sure whether to use my MDF 32mm bases or just the clear ones that I had already. We'll see. But that's it. That's all my hobby progress. So for Mark's hobby progress, I was actually wondering, since this is like a one and done thing, if you'd be interested in talking about the paint scheme for your Necrons.
Sure.
So first, start off with like what it looks like, and then talk about like the colors and the methodology.
So my Necron army is themed after the Machine Empire from Power Rangers Zeo, which aired in 1996. And
were you even born?
I would have been 1 year old at the time.
Jesus Christ. That's the year I graduated high school. Anyways, go on.
But I happen to be an avid fan of Power Rangers, and Zeo is my favorite of all of the ones that are out there. So I saw the Machine Empire as this cool mechanical enemy. I was like, oh, they're kind of like Necrons. I have a box of Necrons. There's probably something I can do between them. So I've made a Machine Empire-esque Necron army. For the basic troops, the Necron Warriors and Necron Immortals, they are an all-silver body with gold heads, and those are to look like, they're called cogs in the show, and they're the basic chaff troops that the Power Rangers are always punching and breaking really easily. And they have silver, it's like a silver meshy style fabric body that's like covered on the mechanical bits, and they have a gold head that opens up and shoots lasers. So I have the gold metal, or I have the silver metal body with the gold heads to be that same color scheme. And then instead of doing the more traditional green glow that you see with the Necrons with the green clear rods, I actually found on Etsy like a nice dark blue clear rod, and I use that and I do like a light blue for my blue glow, and that all fits into the lore of my army. And then the other part is for the characters. I tried to make my Overlord, Cryptek, and Lord all look like key characters from the show. So my Overlord looks like the leader of the Machine Empire, King Mondo, and to do that, he is a metallic blue color, which was done using some metallic blue craft acrylic, which works, but is not as great as a more suited paint for hobby stuff. Mm-hmm. And then he's got a 3D printed gold gear around him because he sort of has a big ornate gear that's his symbol.
He's very ostentatious.
Yes. So I actually...
He's got all the bling. It's amazing.
Yeah, very much. So to get that giant gear, I actually 3D printed a part that looks similar to what he's got going on in the show, just to add that flair to him and make it look extra fancy. And then the gear also has a little bit of lore for the army. And then instead of having the traditional Overlord, I think it's a Void Scythe weapon, I actually put in AdMech the Tech Priest Dominus's axe blade, because it's got that same gear style blade that fits with the motif of the gear thing I have going on. Because also the Immortals have, I think it's a gear piece from one of the AdMech Electro pieces, or Electro Priests, that they wear on like a headdress. I put that on their collar, so I'm keeping that gear motif as much as I can without really killing myself trying to 3D print a whole bunch of parts that are tiny and fiddly hard to work with. And so going beyond that, my Lord is painted gold with a black chest and then the same blue glow. And that's supposed to be King Mondo's wife, because machines get married in this.
It can happen.
It's a very progressive show.
Yeah.
But so she is Queen Machina, his wife, and they are, in the lore, still husband and wife for my Necron army, because in the 41st millennium, anything can happen. And my last character I have paint up for it that's really harkens to the Machine Empire is my Cryptek with the cloak, the little spider cloak from the Forgebane box, and that is supposed to be Clank and Orbis, who are in the show. They're called the Footmen of the Throne. They're kind of like the recurring villain that you see like leading the force on the ground, and then they're what make the monsters big, so the Power Rangers can get in their giant robots and have a giant robot fight. And also Clank has a Scottish accent, because robots also have Scottish accents.
Clearly.
Yeah. This show is very ahead of its time. But so his color scheme is very neat with he's got sort of half and half silver and a browny metallic color. And then it sort of alternates along it. So on one side it'll be on its left, one side is right, but then further down it switches where the colors are. So I have the same thing going on my Cryptek, where he's got that color blocked in, so it keeps alternating between silver and a metallic brown. And then Orbis has the same style going on, but instead of metallic brown, it's just a nice black, and he's got some gold ornaments and the same blue glow going on. So there's a couple running themes of the silver and the blue glow for all the Necrons, and then just trying to hit those things, those key color schemes, to be more homages to what I'm going for with this army.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
Okay, now I understand, because like I had no idea what when the Power Rangers came out, I was working on I guess I was working on my junior recital as an undergrad. So yeah, all right. Sorry, go ahead. that is cool. I like that.
Thank you.
So, do we have any games played?
I've been playing combat cards on iOS, which it used to have another name, I think, but it's basically a 40K
War.
Yeah, it's okay.
It passes the time.
It passes the time. I mean, it's kind of fun. The only thing I don't like about it is I don't particularly like games that require like grind, to be honest, because it's I just don't really have time, and I just don't have time to do them, and so yeah, that's my only complaint about it.
Cool. I've been playing more Titanicus. I played a Titanicus game with Josh on Tabletop Simulators.
Wait, what?
Yeah, on Tabletop Simulator.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I need to go look for that. Okay.
Yep, that was good fun. My buddy James used to play with us at the store mostly when it was at what's it called? Oh, Maria's over in
Flights of Fantasy.
Yeah, when we played at Flights of Fantasy, then he adopted a baby. Because they thought they couldn't have kids, and then they had 2 kids. So,
well,
So yeah,
sometimes you just have to prime the pump.
Yeah, exactly. Wait,
was that a pun?
Might have been somewhat inappropriate, but that's fine.
Well, that's me.
Yeah. So that was a good fun game. Yeah. Apparently, James has painted an entire maniple of Titans because he's super into giant robots. Yeah. And the game is fun. Like, we had a great time. I played my 3 Warlord Titans versus Josh's far more reasonable and balanced maniple, and he just destroyed my Warlords. It was great. So we've also been playing Gloomhaven and board games and stuff. I'm hoping that we can get an Altar of War game with Mark this week. That way we can get one of those in. I usually play on Mondays, but I'm tired, so maybe a different day. But it's all good. Mark,
that's fine with me. I'm not going anywhere.
What have you been? Yeah, what have you been up to?
So I'm in the same boat of not a lot of games played, but I did get, just before all this started, the Space Marine Adventures Labyrinth of the Necron game that they did as like a Barnes & Noble virtual game, and that's been pretty fun, just as you're taking like a squad of 4 Space Marines and sort of just playing against the game, and it works for a way just to pass some time.
Yeah. Awesome. That's fun.
It's got a couple different missions.
Or
solo. It's built that you can play it solo. You just control all the Space Marines instead of one member of the squad, and you're just sort of going around trying to clear out Necrons and open up the doorway to the next room and not die, which is harder than it sounds.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like Space Hulk. That Space Hulk can be really difficult.
Yeah, it is a very similar feel to Space Hulk.
Oh, okay.
And then they even did a couple of bonus expansions where you get additional Space Marines to use from different chapters, and then it adds little changes to the missions. Like, one is a rescue mission where you have to get to the injured Space Marine and like recover him, and then you're allowed to progress. And another one's like a recon mission where you have to like go to different objectives within the map to open the door instead of the control console. So it's a fun little romp.
Yeah.
Nice.
That sounds good.
So let's go Beyond the Fringe. Jason, what have you got for your Beyond the Fringe?
Oh, mine is odd. Medication. Melatonin. So I'm one of those people that it actually will affect. Like, it will actually make me go to sleep, and I've been taking it because the end of the semester always pushes me to the sleeping weird odd hours, and just so we're all aware, I'm working on 4 hours right now. I woke up at like 5. It's like at 5 I just woke up. I'm like, all right, time to record. It's like I've still got 4 more hours. So today's recording is brought to you by Cold Brew Coffee. Cold Brew, but because it's me, it's some cheap coffee. It's not like the designer coffee that Adam gets.
Well,
whatever.
Actually, for our cold brew, we don't use the good coffee. We use just the 8 o'clock whole bean.
Oh, okay.
And we just grind it medium or medium coarse, and it's just delicious.
Oh, I'm using like for our Texas listeners, I'm using like HEB already ground stuff. I mean, it's like I put it in there, and then I have to I put it through the strainer, and that takes out most of the grounds. Then I have to make sure and pour off the coffee, otherwise it starts continuing to steep. And so after a couple of days, that stuff is that stuff is pure electricity, man.
Oh, that's fantastic.
If I drink more than 1 or 2, I start, bending light with my mind.
Just pour it in your phone to charge it.
Right?
At that point, yeah, it's, although it'd probably overcharge the phone, but So anyways, cold brew. Woohoo. All right, what about you, Adam? What's your Beyond the Fringe?
Oh, I had some trouble coming up with one. Because it's been pretty. We've been putting like a lot of our random games played into our games played and stuff. So
yeah.
But I'm gonna go with exuding dad energy as my Beyond the Fringe. I've been building baby toys. I've been I've been like pulling wagons in the wilderness with babies in them, and yesterday the piece de resistance though for this week was yesterday I mowed with my shirt off. In the front yard. Well, not that I have a lot of front yard, but like I was just proudly wandering around with no shirt on outside mowing the lawn and giving the stink eye to people driving by. It was pretty great. I was just missing the cigarette, which I don't smoke, so I can't do that. I could have been mowing with a beer can, but these mowers these days, they don't let you just like walk around one-handed with the mower. It's bullcrap.
You could build a cup holder onto yours.
Yeah. It's crap. All right, Mark, save us. What did you have for your Beyond the Fringe?
All right, so my Beyond the Fringe is a different type of model kit than what listeners are probably used to for this show. It's the Bandai 1144 scale high-grade Grendizer Infinitism, which I sent you guys pictures of.
Yeah, I think
it's pretty rad.
This thing is a beast of a kit. It's like 20 sprues. They're all different colors, so I don't have to do any painting, which is nice. It's all snapped together, so no gluing. It's super posable. It's big. It's like I measured. It's like 8 inches tall. It's a big, chunky, giant robot that hails back to like 1970s super robot animes.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Well, you have that one picture of, is that okay, I know it's definitely a librarian with a jump pack. It looks like modified. Yeah, and it's
scale.
only half. Yeah, it's only like halfway up the calf.
Yeah, it's tiny compared to it.
Yeah.
All right, we have one minor note in the Astropathic communique. GW Web Store is opening, but we still can't take orders from our FLGS at this point.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. Yeah. I'm going to hold off on buying stuff. I did ask them, to put me down for one of the special... those are really cool, by the way. The new...
the new Catechin Dylan model?
He's super cool. Yeah. I really hope we're going to get more Astra Militarum plastics.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It's real nice, the ones they've come out with recently.
Yeah, it's almost like they might be, gearing up for something.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
not that we know anything, but I mean, that would be nice to have some updates over there.
Mm-hmm. And we've been having a conversation over on the ICs about, how would they go about doing this? And it is weird, right? Because some of the regiments might be somewhat problematic right now. So, like, the Valhallans are definitely Stalin era Russians, and that's, a sore spot for people whose families were the targets of those massacres. And also the Victorian style Astra Militar. No, the other, whatever the case, they have the dome hats and the mustaches.
Oh, the Vestroians.
The Vestroians, yeah, whose entire design is based off the British military during the time when they were basically murdering brown people and annexing their lands.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they could just adjust the style of some of those to better make them more unique to 40K, or just they might not even do them at all, which is fine.
I'd really love them to do some tall irons.
Yeah, tall irons are freaking awesome.
I have a feeling they probably won't do updates to the quote-unquote historical ones or the historically inspired ones. Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, like with Space Marines, they really focus mostly on the Smurfs, the Ultramarines. And so that might be what they end up doing, just to...
Catechins or whatever. Now, didn't the Perry twins sculpt those? Or I think they were into... Either way, they were super into historicals at the time, and that was just what they did. So that's cool. Also, I have an addendum here to the Astropathic communique, and it's that the Games Workshop Warhammer TV stream has expanded their schedule for the quarantine lockdown. Yeah, they're doing more shows, so there's an additional community roundup where they talk about the miniatures that people have posted on Twitter with the hashtag Warhammer community. And they've added 2 more hangout and paints for the morning. So
cool.
For the US, that's super early. But for the UK, that's a good time for folks who want to wake up and do some painting in the morning. I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays they're doing that additional hangout and hobby. It's really cool. They've added some game shows to their hangout and hobby. Mm-hmm. So one of them is Guess That Stat Line. Or whose stat line is that anyway? So it's always a named character, and you have to guess what the stat line is. Peachy's creature feature, so they randomly pick real animals from the chat, and he tries to make a D&D-esque or Roman Greek historic a Greek style monster out of it. Okay. So and then he has to come up with a name for it, so like a platyduckapus or whatever, or platyducka giraffe or whatever. Yeah, and then someone in the community is actually drawn, they're the people who are doing the stream, they roll to see what their chaos boons are. There's an old table that showed what chaos boons you could get, and some extra arm or long fang, like dripping fangs or whatever. So they would roll 3 or 4 chaos upgrades, and then someone in the community draws them with those, a caricature of them, but with the chaos boons attached to their bodies.
So I think that was out of were they rolling off a D100?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah. The Age of Darkness podcast was creating Chaos War bands using that rule set. It's an old rule set.
Cool.
But there's lots of really interesting flavor that you can add because it's a D100.
Right.
And everything comes off of that D100, and so you can create some pretty wild things. I need to listen to more. I haven't been listening to podcasts over the quarantine just because I'm not driving anywhere, and that's where I listen to most of my podcasts.
Yeah,
but,
I've been behind as well. I'm only really listening to the staples.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So why don't we go ahead and take a quick break? I'm going to go back and listen to some of this audio because it's actually starting to look like garbage in my waveform, so that's good.
Uh-oh.
And we'll be back to talk about the lore of Mark's army.
Sounds good.
Greetings, mofos.
Are you out of George Dickel number 8, staring at a broken chess machine?
Well, don't want to spend the rest of the year tied to that couch?
Well, why don't you head on over to the 1 Hour a Night Facebook page and see what exciting stuff is going on there. It's a place to post all your daily progress in the hobby grind, as well as receive and give positive feedback. Also, there are usually a few interesting challenges going on.
That's right. All you have to do is search for 1 Hour a Night on Facebook. That's numeral 1 Hour a Night, all one word. Blood serum tests will be administered prior to approval.
Se til helvete og kom dere vekk. Det ikke en bikkje, det en slags ting. Den imiterer en bikkje, men det ikke det. Kom dere vekk, idioter!
What he said.
This is David Annandale, and you're listening to Masters of the Forge, where they bring the world of Warhammer 40,000 to life on your tabletop.
Are you looking for a pressure-free hobby Facebook group? Hobby Streak. Are you looking for a community where you can keep your hobby progress on track? Hobby Streak. Do you want a Facebook group that focuses on all aspects of the hobby? Hobby Streak. Hobby Streak is a Facebook group for building, painting, list building, playing games, and everything in between. Hobby Streak. Post daily updates showing or telling about your progress for friendly and helpful support from a great community. Try Hobby Streak today.
Welcome back, everyone. So we're here today. If you recall, a few weeks ago, we did an episode on the lore of Jason and my armies are the Blood Ravens and that
was my Thousand Sons
and the my Drukhari. And we put out the feelers out there. We're like, hey, if anybody else wants to tell everybody about their D&D character, Warhammer army, please let us know. And we don't care what it is. We want to hear how you develop the lore for your army.
Yeah.
And we put no restrictions on this. And Mark has put a lot of effort into his army and the lore of his army, and I love it. It's ridiculous. It's delightful.
Thank you.
All right. So starting off here. So here's the thing. Mark. You're going to go through the lore of your army. This first part, we're going to comment on. And then we're going to go on a break. Okay. And then there's going to be a story time where you read everybody your little your super rad short story you have here. And I fully expect you to use voices.
Oh, dear. Should I get a synthesizer for all the robot voices real quick?
Don't worry, we'll get that in post.
No,
and by
we're not getting that in post.
Yes, we will!
You just said Audacity can do anything.
Stop being so lazy. God.
No, I'm not using. I don't use Audacity to edit. I use Pro Tools.
Listeners, if you listen to this episode back and you don't hear synthesized voices, I want you to message Jason and tell him how lazy he is. All right, Mark.
I will take those emails under consideration, meaning I will ignore them and or delete them. Or I'll subscribe you to some fun mailing list. Ooh.
Oh, dear.
Oh, that could be fun. Yes,
like
please,
that one time our buddy pissed us off back in the 90s, and we subscribed him to the NAMBLA mailing list. He probably ended up on a lot of lists.
Yeah. Yeah.
I doubt that even exists anymore. Anyways, Mark, take it away.
Okay.
Let's hear about the Machine Empire.
Alright, so this army is called Machine Empire because of the Power Ranger stuff. So to really get into the history of the army, it's easier just to talk about King Mondo, who is the key character of this army.
Dude, this picture is awesome. Like the picture, okay, both of the pictures are awesome, but I can tell why you were inspired by this particular pop culture reference, because this suit is so rad. He's got like cogs in his belly, and he's all like, he's got this super rad staff, and you did a really good job of maybe if not recreating, you could see the influences, and it's super cool.
Thank you. King Mondo was once the ruler of a minor Necron world in the N51 sector of Necron space, overseen by Emotech. So he's part of the Sautech dynasty.
Okay.
Mondo was respected as a skilled tactician and a fair ruler. When the war in heaven began, Mondo was initially a critic of the conflict, seeing it as a pointless waste of lives. When the fighting spread to his region of space, he worked fiercely to protect his subjects, especially his wife, Machina. When the Catan offered the biotransference, Mondo was resistant, but knew it had to be done to win the war. After awakening from the slumber, Mondo saw the full effects of the Necron tier. He saw that his subjects had grown cold and... lost my place for a second. Cold and unfeeling. Worst of all, Machina seemed to have lost the love in her heart. For some reason, Mondo retained a level of feeling and emotion and sought to share it with his subjects. He worked tirelessly to create the controller gear, which let him tap into dormant feelings in those around him. Often these feelings are rage towards what they feel is a cruel universe needing subjugation. When Mondo learned that Emotech had risen to become the Ferion of the Sautech, Mondo became furious. He felt that Emotech was just as responsible as the Catan for the war and the transference. Mondo now seeks to topple Emotech and bring all Necrons under the influence of the gear, even by force. Hoping that once reunited, the Necrons can find a way to reverse the transference. Mondo is not interested in conquest of other races, but if he suspects that they have something that will help him, he will strike swiftly to get it.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's a cool character. This next character, also...
Oh, yeah.
Super great.
Yeah, this is really good.
And I love the name. What a great name. Go ahead,
It's
Mark.
really on point. So this is Queen Machina, Mondo's wife. Machina was once the elegant wife of Mondo. She was warm and compassionate, but a skilled warrior in her own right. After the transference, she became cold and unfeeling like the others. While under the influence of gear, she tapped into a cruel rage. She still sits at Mondo's side, working towards conquest.
Dude, I really love the idea of this relic that lets the Necrons feel emotion.
Yeah.
It's really neat. I think that's a really neat hook. So I feel like anybody who's trying to come up with lore for their Necron army needs some kind of hook beyond my bases are sand. They're sand Necrons, you know?
Yeah.
To give them the feeling that it's a unique army. And that's my Well, I have tried to develop a little bit more lore for my army, but I'm just like, these are swamp Necrons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's still an interesting narrative. I mean, it still needs some more fleshing out, but that's a really great basis.
I would say that's a good theme for the hobby. It's not. It's less a lore. It's less a story. And I think what you're putting together here is a great story. I don't care what the influence is. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Well, I like the... Okay, so we're going to talk about next Clank, which... Alright, so just so everyone knows, I have no idea what the Power Ranger stuff is at all, but Mark has added pictures of, Clank, the original cat, and then his own interpretation of it. And I'm really digging this. You want to talk to us about Clank and the model you used?
So for Clank, I use the Cryptek with the, I think it's called the Canoptic Cloak. So it's the floaty one that's the more recent variant of the Cryptek. And so Clank also carries around his little buddy Orbis, and they have a kind of a little back and forth shtick that's sort of the comic relief of the show.
Oh, okay.
Clank's always making bold ideas, and Orbis is telling him he's kind of dumb and it won't work, and then Clank throws him.
So he's got this spider. It's the one with the Necron Cryptek with the spider, right?
Yeah,
it's the surfing one.
The surfing one.
Yeah, or a skateboarding one, your choice.
So I haven't fleshed that out yet in the lore, but I imagine they have a similar dynamic still where
Yeah.
Orbis
I love it.
Snippy little spider sidekick who's always just telling him why things won't work, and then laughs when things blows up in Clank's face.
I'm not watching this show. I don't have time, but I will admit you're selling it quite well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Clank is the footman of the throne and the chief scientist for King Mondo. Clank was always a faithful servant to his king and had a brilliant mind. Despite losing his emotions, he retained his intelligence. Like the others, the gear taps into a deep rage. Clank now works tirelessly to provide his king with the finest technology. He has worked to outfit the Necron ranks with miniaturized gears that let Mondo control them better. Mondo is able to impart much of his prowess onto his soldiers, making them into a deadly force. Clank has also worked to uncover and revive ancient Necron war machines, including the devastating Seroptic.
Cool.
Nice. So cool. What a great model. I suspect this guy gets beat a lot by the Power Rangers.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, so good. The Clank from the show looks kind of like Tom Servo from not Clank, his buddy, his
sidekick,
sidekick
Orbis, yep.
Orbis. He looks a lot like
he
Tom
does
Servo.
have that feel to him. And it's about the same dynamic, so it works.
Oh man, so cool. All right, so let's talk about what rules you used for your dynasty.
Alright, so currently I'm running them with the dynastic code for the Sautech, which is Relentless Advance. That lets units, they can advance and treat any of their rapid fire weapons as assault weapons, and then they can also move normally and fire the heavy weapons without a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And so this code was chosen mainly to fit with the narrative that Mondo is part of the Sautech dynasty.
Right,
and
you know what, dude? Sorry to interrupt you, but like this is a good example. Like we don't have to come up with our own chapter. We don't have to come up with our own dynasty to have unique rules for our army, which is it's definitely something you've done. The Sautech dynasty is enormous, and it's taken over so many other dynasties. I don't see why folks can't do the same thing. If you want it to fit a certain narrative, you can, and you can just go along and create a rich background without even having to sit there and come up with a whole new paint scheme or a whole new lore for the basic army.
Yeah, and then I was hoping that later with Psychic Awakening, they might actually give custom dynastic codes, and I could flesh out a little more to make it fit better. But for the moment, the Sautech stuff fits very well with what I'm going for in the army.
Awesome.
Okay, good.
And then, so Mondo is always the warlord when I take this, because he's in charge. And I always give him Immortal Pride, which lets friendly dynasty units within 6 inches of him automatically pass morale, and he can attempt to deny the witch, like a psyker.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that makes total sense for what he does. Like he fills them with emotion and rage, and they don't care. They just don't care. They're like, yes, we will fight.
Yeah. And then also the Deny the Wish part, when I go into the story, you'll see that Mondo is a bit different than other Necrons for various reasons through the story. Mm-hmm. And that him being able to deny the wish sort of gets to show that he can do things other Necrons normally can't, because his emotions and stuff going on let him tap into that warp stuff that the Necrons often ignore.
Okay. Cool. What else?
So when I use this army, a big emphasis is taking a lot of warrior/immortals. That's just to get that endless legion feel. You sort of play into, I think it's usually called like a Silver Tide army, when you take lots of warriors and big blobs. Yeah. And that's just, you get this endless legion feel. Mondo's got all of his subjects. They bubble around him, and he's controlling them with the Immortal Pride. He's using his My Will Be Done power, which further fits in the lore if he's like taking individual units of Necrons and giving them more control, saying you guys are going to be better because I'm imparting my powers onto you. So I'll even use, they have a stratagem, I think it's a Ferion's Will, that for command point lets him do it to a second unit, because normally an overlord can only do it once a turn, so it lets him do it twice. So that's just more of him imparting his powers onto various units in the army and really making them into these warriors that he's controlling. Yeah. And then I will also usually try to fit in some sort of rare vehicle that is something that Clank's cooked up from Mondo to use. I'll take like Doomsday Arcs, just because they work pretty well for anti-tank when you're playing. Mm-hmm. But it's a nice big machine for Clank to be fixing up. I have a Seroptech, so I will occasionally use that for things, because that's a fun big unit that is big and intimidating and isn't amazing, so it doesn't feel too bad playing against it.
Well, you need to have your Zord.
Exactly. So it is a giant robot for Power Rangers to fight, and there's currently no Power Rangers in the 41st Millennium, but when we get them, they can fight it.
Well, Imperial Knight, I can see it.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah. Cool. So the next section I see, we have you have described some of the modern era current activities of your group.
Yeah, so for the current activities of the Machine Empire, Mondo is in the midst of waging a civil war against Emotech. Mondo blames Emotech for making a bad deal with the Catan that has stripped the Necrons of all their emotions. Mondo knows that he cannot immediately face Emotech, so he's currently focusing on subjugating other Necrons into his empire. Mondo is also searching for a way to revert the biotransference. His forces are scouring the galaxy for any lead that may help. This will often bring them in contact with the other forces of the 41st Millennium. Mondo is not interested in the squabbles of the other races and has no immediate ambitions to fight them, but Mondo will engage those whom he perceives as standing in his way.
Yeah, so like the Mechanicus clearly is going to be a problem, and with Cesaros also working towards that end.
Yeah, seeing that new model actually has put new ideas for what direction to take the army, because I didn't actually know a ton about his lore, but seeing that cool new model and learning a little more about him and the direction they're taking for the Necrons in the Psychic Awakening, Mondo might get a little more involved in that.
Cool.
So what about your future ambitions? I see that as your next list.
The big thing is I need to play more games with this army. I want to try and encompass a couple skirmishes during this civil war between Mondo and Emotech, and I'd like it to culminate in some large battle between Mondo's combined subjugated forces and then Emotech's large forces of the Sautech, and then I would hope in the game Mondo is able to kill Emotech and then take over as the leader of this new, basically rolling the whole Sautech into his machine empire and creating this whole new conglomerated Necron force that is under Mondo's control and is more focused on his ambitions rather than just the normal 40k things.
That sounds awesome, dude. So when we play our game, maybe we should do Necrons versus Necrons.
Yeah, that would fit perfectly.
We could play it on that super rad Necron table.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you should do that.
That thing is so cool. It has it has animations and everything. It's really cool.
Really? I haven't actually looked at it yet, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah. After we're done recording today, we need to hop on Tabletop Simulator and I can show you. It's so cool.
Yeah.
We could even use that, since it's tabletop and we don't need to spend money or build giant models, we could even use that Necron fortification. That's like a Forge World model.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the tomb or something.
There's already one on the board. Wait till you see
perfect.
It's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing. And you added some additional pictures here, and I love the the regular troops of the from the show.
Yeah, they got
look
that.
at the cool heads that he has on his models. The 3D printed pieces, Jason, on his warriors.
Well, that's a bit
immortals.
from the AdMech.
Oh, that's the AdMech bit?
Yeah, they have like a headdress that's like a gear thing. So I just bought a bunch of the gear piece off of eBay and slapped them all on the collars.
Yeah, dude.
I like those. Yeah.
We definitely need to make sure to post pictures of these on the show notes when we do, or I'll post them on the blog for the show notes of the blog when we do this, because it's super cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get Quinn out of his crib and let him play. And then we'll come back and Mark will regale us with the story of the rise of the Machine Empire. So we'll be right back.
We'll look forward to it.
Hello, everyone. The Masters of the Forge is now a proud member of the NPC, the Narrative Podcast Consortium. Our aim is to inspire your hobby through the rich lore of the 41st millennium. If you enjoy our podcast, then make sure to check out these other awesome shows, where you can get coverage on campaigns, Black Library, and all kinds of general topics of the 40K background.
The NGC 40K podcast also provides in-depth campaign coverage, audio dramas, and free-flowing narrative campaign creation.
The Adeptus Terra podcast also features in-depth discussions of the lore and commentary on the hobby.
Oh, and sexy English voices.
Oh, yeah.
The Masters of the Forge brings the world of 40K to life on your tabletop, with discussion on the lore, backed up by narrative-themed rules and battle reports.
Of course, this is only a fraction of the topics covered by the podcasts of the NPC. Please tune in to find out more.
This is Rob Sanders, and you're listening to the Masters of the Forge, where the world of 40K comes to life on your tabletop.
Hey mofos, are you looking for more Warhammer 40K video content? Well, the Scarred Cast posts regular battle reports as well as tactics and strategy videos. Be sure to check out all the cool hobby content for the avid tabletop wargamer. That's Scarred Cast, Skared on YouTube.
And we're back. Adam will be joining us shortly. He is off taking care of the mighty Quinn Stormageddon. So, Mark, let's talk about your lore, the Rise of the Machine Empire.
Yeah, so this is a short, and I'm doing air quotes because it's longer than I thought, story that I have been sort of writing for the better part of almost a year now.
Yeah.
As I build the army and paint it, I like to add chapters to it just to keep fleshing out the story.
Right.
So, just a good way for me to keep the narrative going and flex some creative muscles that I don't normally do.
Right. And it also gives you an idea of, it's almost like a documentation of how you've built the army too, right?
Yeah. It
definitely
lets me keep up to date with what I'm doing, and if I'm ever because I don't do Necrons all the time, so whenever I come back to them again, I like to look at this first and see, okay, this is where I was and what I was doing, so when I go start doing more Necrons and thinking more of how I want to advance it, it's always good to have a nice document to go back to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Having those notes that does help in the creative process. What was I doing again? Oh yeah, this helps. Okay, cool. So, you want to go ahead and start with chapter 1 then?
Sure. All right. So this story is The Rise of the Machine Empire by Mark Mindenberg. All right. So chapter 1. The world was growing cold as Mondo embraced his new body. Slowly, he grew numb as his mind transferred into a lifeless metal husk. He wondered what if it would always be this cold as his people slowly embraced the biotransference to achieve their desired immortality. But it did not matter the wars in heaven raged on. Mondo had seen firsthand that this war was going badly and that something needed to be done. He had watched as his people burned and wanted nothing more than to stop the suffering. This seemed to be the only way. Mondo looked over to his wife Machina, who was also undergoing the transfer. She was beautiful, with hair that had grown silver with age, yet she held in elegance. Above all else, Mondo had pledged to protect her and his people as war raged on. Mondo knew that he would never be able to embrace her again as their bodies were unfeeling metal. Still, Mondo held on to his love and devotion for her as he drew his last breath. Mondo, clad in his new body, was soon dispatched to the front for his final assault against the Old Ones. He served under Imhotep, an ambitious rival who Mondo had to admit was a brilliant commander. The plan was simple: a direct assault on the Old One's homeworld with the aid of the mysterious Catan. The Catan were rivals of the Old Ones and had granted the Necrontyr these immortal bodies to aid them in the coming battle. Soon the attack began and millions of Necrontyr rained down on the Old Ones. Mondo led a force of his finest warriors to capture a fortification known as the Power Chamber. Here one could control much of the energy that powered the final defenses of the Old Ones. Controlling the Power Chamber would mean victory. As he marched with his troops, the shots from the enemy meant nothing to his new body. Explosions raged all around him, and he cared not. He felt nothing. As they advanced, the barrages got fiercer, yet still they kept moving. They felt no fear, no anger, only a desire to be done with this war. Yet, as Mondo advanced his troops, there was one thought on his mind: Machina. Did she survive the transference, he thought. He couldn't shake the thought of his wife, even as the battle raged on. As he slashed through waves of enemies, his mind could only focus on seeing Machina and holding her once again. Soon they were at the gates of the power chamber. Mondo looked at his troops, 100 of his finest warriors, and his faithful cryptek, Clank. As they awaited his order to storm the fortress and bring the war to an end. As they barged inside, they were caught in a crossfire. Many troops fell, but as quickly as they were shot down, they rose back up unscathed. This was the power of the new bodies. Through sheer attrition and determination, they advanced into the inner chamber and came to the core. It glowed bright with a mysterious blue energy. Mondo knew that it was warm based on the scanners his new body possessed. Yet as he grew closer, he felt nothing from it. As his troops held off the remaining Old Ones, Clank shouted, "Destroy it and we can be done with this blasted war." Mondo raised his staff. It crackled with energy, and as he thrust it swiftly into the core, suddenly Mondo was enveloped in a fierce blue light. Azure lightning crackled from the core and struck Mondo. In an instant, the impossible happened. Mondo felt a pain through his metal body, as if millions of needles struck at every inch of him. As the lightning continued, Mondo tried his best to hold on. He focused as best he could on the only thing he could: Machina. The thought of his wife's embrace soon filled his body, pushing out the pain. With a final push, he smashed the core, and the lightning stopped. The energy had stained Mondo's once silver body a deep blue, and an azure glow emanated from his chest. He didn't put much thought into it, that though, for the deed was done, and the final defenses were left powerless. Soon the final strongholds of the Old Ones were razed to the ground, and the war in heaven ended. As Mondo and his fellow Necrontyr looked over their victory, they still felt nothing. There was no joy or relief in this great feat, only acknowledgement that it had been accomplished. The victory was empty, just like the Necrontyr. Yet Mondo's mind turned to his wife, and the thought of her grew stronger in his mind, as if she was right in front of him, but only out of his grasp. He could not wait to return to his kingdom to see her.
Cool. So this is, chapter 1. I'm assuming that at this point you have probably modeled warriors and Mondo and Clank, right?
Yeah, so Clank was the first thing done, just because I had gotten the half of the forging box as the start of this army. Right. So I started with Clank and the warriors, and then Mondo was sort of the second thing that got made.
Yeah.
And it was just more warriors, more immortals, a little bit of like the Triarchs and stuff, but it's really focused on the characters and the infantry at this point.
Okay. Cool. That's really interesting, because you're talking about Machina already, but you probably had not built her yet at that time.
No, she was done much later.
Okay, cool. I mean, that's really nice. That's kind of an idea of what you can do in the future, and you're documenting what you're doing now in your story. Well, you're not quote unquote documenting. You're documenting it, but you're not telling them, "Hey, this is all I've built." But it's really cool. This is how you're expanding that out.
Yeah, it's nice to see the more organic way. Well, I guess organic. No pun intended. A way of the army growing.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. All right, so chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
All right.
Mondo felt different as he traveled home from the battle. His mechanical body crackled with remnant sparks from the core of the power chamber, and his thoughts of Machina were stronger. His longing to see her again grew as each moment passed during the flight. When Mondo's craft landed at his palace, he moved as swiftly as his metal body would allow to get to Machina's chamber. Mondo entered the chamber and laid eyes on Machina's new metallic form. She was clad in gold, which stood out compared to the silver of the other Necron bodies. Mondo's included. She stared blankly at Mondo as he rushed to embrace her. His embrace was met with a hollow clang as their metal bodies connected. In that moment, Mondo realized that he would never know the tender touch of his love again. Mondo looked in Machina's face and said, "I missed you." Machina replied in a robotic tone, "You are returned, sire. How may I serve?" Mondo was caught off guard by her response. There was no passion in her voice. She was just the same as the rest of his legion. It then dawned on Mondo. He was different than the rest. Realizing this, Mondo flew into a rage and rushed back to contact Emotech. "Emotech, did you know what would happen to us when we took these metal forms?" Mondo yelled into a communicator. "Whatever do you mean?" replied Emotech. "Everyone else seems to be hollow, including Machina," said Mondo. "Yes, but they are immortal and nigh invulnerable," replied Emotech. "But it seems that you and I are different, more emotive," said Mondo. "Well, those deemed important enough were allowed to retain some qualities of their past selves," said Emotech coldly. "Machina was important to me," screamed Mondo. "What is the point of being immortal if we lost who we serve?" Mondo asked. "For conquest. We can now rule for eternity with endless legions that will never falter. We will outlast all those who oppose us. We will be eternal," replied Emotech, growing angry with seeming insolence. I'll get my wife back, Emotech. "You have betrayed us," replied Mondo. "We will see how you feel in a few thousand years," said Emotech in a menacing tone. Before Mondo could question what Emotech meant, everything went black. Mondo collapsed to the ground like a puppet, cut from its strings. The energy of the power chamber crackled across his lifeless husk. Across the universe, all Necrons simultaneously shut off as Emotech issued a command. The Great Sleep had begun.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That is cool. That is a
great way to show the moment of that event and how and it really reflects kind of the emotion behind it.
Yeah. So I'm assuming this is when you built Machina, or had you built her yet?
At this point, Machina was built, and I used an old metal lord.
Okay.
For her model, because I happened to find one for a good deal. And then, so she's painted all nice in gold. She has a black chest and then the same blue kind of glow in the lines on the ribs that all the Necrons have.
Yeah.
And then I gave her a violet cloak and even some little blue crystals just to really make her look and feel like a unique character.
Okay. Very cool, very cool. All right, on to Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. Mondo's eyes flickered on. He surveyed the room and saw that age had crept in. There was a thick layer of dust on every surface, and all the technology was in disarray. Mondo hoisted himself up. His body creaked with age. He looked at himself. Still metal, he thought. Mondo shuffled over to one of his followers' bodies. As he got a closer look, he noticed that it was his faithful servant Clank. Mondo shook Clank's body, but there was no response. Mondo put Clank's body down. How long has it been, he wondered. Mondo attempted to turn on a console, but there was no power. Mondo slammed his hands in frustration. As he did, he noticed the flicker of azure energy across his body. The power core is still alive in me, he thought. Mondo had an idea. He unplugged a wire from his core and jammed it into a console. It whirred to life with a familiar azure glow. Mondo used the console to access the palace's chronometer, a timekeeping device. Over 40,000 years had passed. Mondo was slightly impressed that the metal body had worked after all this time. Perhaps the others could be revived like the console, Mondo thought. He rushed back to Clank and plugged his cable into Clank's core. Clank's eyes flickered on to life. He surveyed the room and then looked at Mondo. Sire...
Hold on real quick. I like that he's basically just going and jump starting everybody off of himself.
Pretty much.
That's great.
I mean, that's it's what it is. Just like hold on and slapping the cables together to see if there's a spark or not. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
Sire, what happened? Said Clank. I am not sure, but I know Emotech was behind it. Over 40,000 years have passed, and yet we still function. These bodies really are immortal, explained Mondo. What of the other sires? Do they function? Clank asked. At the moment, no. But with time, I may be able to revive them. First, I must find Machina. Clank, I want you to access that console and determine what happened. Clank rose from his king's arms and accessed the console. Mondo rushed to Machina's chamber. He found her collapsed on the floor, lifeless and deactivated like the others. Mondo connected his cable to her. Quickly, her eyes lit up, and she turned to meet Mondo's gaze. My love, what has happened? I feel different, she spoke softly. Mondo was overjoyed at these words. Despite her robotic appearance, he could sense the life in her. There was a spark of his love still within her. So much has happened. So much time has passed. But all that matters is that we are together, responded Mondo. Clank entered the chamber. He did not like interrupting a moment between his king and queen, but he had to share what he had gleaned from the console. Sire, pardon the interruption, but I have learned some of what happened, said Clank. Mondo, still looking deeply into Machina's eyes, replied, What was it Emotech's doing? Yes, sire. It appears that Emotech had a shutdown code installed in all of those subjected to biotransference. It seems that his ongoing campaigns with the Aeldari were not going well. He stretched his forces too thin between fighting them and the old ones. He decided that the best course of action was to use our new immortality to his advantage. He put all Necrons into a kind of deep stasis to wait out the Aeldari. It seemed that Emotech has reawakened and has now been reawakening the other Necrons to wage war in a new war against the galaxy, Clank explained. Then why did only I turn on? Asked Mondo. The reactivation signal was sent to our forces, but there seems to have been interference, replied Clank. Turning to Machina, Mondo spoke. Well, at least you were revived, my dear, and now we can resurrect our people together. Then I will find a way to reverse this curse that Emotech has put on us. I live to serve, sire. Your conquest is my function, replied Machina in a lifeless tone. Clank, what has happened? Just a second ago, my Machina was alive. Now she is mindless like before, said Mondo in a desperate tone. I am not sure, sire, but I had detected an odd energy signature coming from Machina that seems to have faded. More curiously, I am detecting high amounts of the energy coming from you, replied Clank. We must get to the bottom of this. I long for Machina to return, said Mondo. Mondo and Clank went down to one of Clank's laboratories. After some work to repair the damaged equipment, Clank got to work analyzing Mondo. Eventually, Clank isolated the unique energy emanating from Mondo and Ransom Test. He used it on other deactivated Necrons to observe its effects. Soon he had an idea of what might be happening. Sire, it seems that this energy you emit has a curious effect on our Necron bodies. It amplifies emotions within our personality programs that were installed during the biotransference. For normal Necrons, the personality program is basic, existing to drive servitude to their leaders. For Necrons that Emotech deem important, such as you and me, the personality program is more complex and retains many of our pre-biotransference features. Your energy enhances the personality program to make it more complex. In short, it returns emotions to Necrons. But only for a short time, explained Clank. Is there a way to make the effects more permanent? Asked Mondo. Clank replied, At the moment, I do not think so. The energy is volatile and hard to sustain outside your body. With time, I may be able to find a way to disperse it and sustain its effects over your immediate vicinity. And what of the biotransference, Clank? Do you have any thoughts on how to reverse it? Unfortunately, I know little of the biotransference. I was not involved in designing it. I suspect that only Catan and possibly Emotech would know enough to give a clue as to how to reverse it, replied Clank. Well, Emotech will never willingly give up the secret to this immortality. He would sacrifice all Necrons to protect his secret, said Mondo. Then what will we do, sire? We will rebuild, Clank. We will raise all of our deactivated forces, then go to war. I will rip the secret of the biotransference out of Emotech's head if I have to. I will do everything to bring Machina back, said Mondo in a stern tone. In that moment, Clank saw a fire in his king's eyes. Conviction and determination emanated off Mondo almost brighter than a mysterious energy. Nothing short of annihilation would keep Mondo from his vengeance.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that with us.
Yes.
You're welcome.
That's fun. So, the next steps, are I think Mondo's goals align very well with that of Cesaros. So I think that's a great line to go on for reversing the biotransference and finding Blackstone. Maybe that would also be a good hook for future games.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on right now with what Games Workshop is teasing with the Necron lore that could be added to this story to help bring it more in line with what they're doing and just keep giving me new ideas to expand upon. I really look forward to finding a good way to incorporate Saraz into this.
Mm-hmm. I think that it'll be interesting as you go forward, like what will win out in Mondo's mind or his efforts. What's more important to him, like his vengeance or his exploration of how to reverse the biotransference. It's 40K. It'll probably be the vengeance portion.
Oh, most likely. That's usually where people go in this.
Awesome. That's great. So, as far as the army goes, are you thinking about expanding it any further, or are you done with it?
I am thinking of expanding it. Again, as I said with Saraz, I am definitely eagerly awaiting that model to come out because it's a good fit. So I'll probably do. I think this would be my third batch of Necrons when that happens. And for the moment, I'm just going to sort of wait and see what they do. If more new models would be perfect to incorporate. I have some stuff kicking around the pile of shame that needs to be done, so that'll probably give me a good excuse to do it.
Yeah, and I think we can play out that kind of that path. I'll try to come up with a cool scenario and work with you to put together a scenario for the forces of Emotech versus the forces of Mondo. It probably won't. We don't want to do that ultimate.
No,
it'll be some splinter offshoot thing, obviously.
Yeah,
but I'm very interested in seeing how that. I did want to do this episode when the Pariah book came out, but with everything on hold the way it is, it was hard to do that, and I definitely wanted to still get this episode in, but we'll talk about the lore of that when it comes out. You know, we don't have to do that now. So, all right, cool. So I don't know. You guys have anything else?
I'm enjoying your lore on this. You know, I mean, it's thought out. You've gone through and done some really nice paint schemes and some kit bashing and converting and adding stuff to.
That's super fun.
You know, the cogs are I'm just thinking about how the cogs from the show were rather interesting. We'll just leave it at that. And how your cogs are much more interesting and do seem to be more mechanically, you know.
The Immortals are great.
Yeah.
Those Immortals are amazing.
Yeah,
I love that.
I really love that. It's such a fun model with a lot of personality, and even just adding that single gear piece really changes it up in a way to make it its own, and it's only just gluing on a single part that does it.
Right, yeah. Sometimes that's only, especially those infantry models, those rank and file infantry models, you don't want to go too crazy with the doodads and doohickeys. A little bit goes a long way sometimes, so that's really cool. Okay, so if anybody else wants to come on and share their army's lore, please contact us. We'd be more than happy to do more and more and more of these episodes, because that's what this is all about. Warhammer, whatever. So I was listening to one of I think it was a Stormcast episode, I forget, but the designers, they feel like, when somebody asks, well, is this canon or what's canon? Everything is canon.
Yeah.
Your story is canon to you. Your army's lore is canon for you and your opponent. So don't get caught up in what the specific lore of everything is, because it's not that important. What's important is that you enjoy telling your stories the way you want to. So again, let us know if you have any lore for your army, and if you want to come on, and if you feel like you have enough content to fill out a segment or a couple of segments, just do it.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break, come back, and close out the show.
Hey Archons, tired of the boring predictability and efficiency of stuff that always works? You need the Slith Party Bus! Got an extra 473 points that you can't find a solid use for? You need the Slith Party Bus! You could spend 420 points on 3 reliable Lance Ravagers pumping out 9 Dark Lance shots per turn that'll only give up 3 victory points, or you can drop 473 points on 2 Archons, 8 Slith, and a Raider for 11 victory points. You need the Slith Party Bus! The classic Slith Party Bus. Still awesome. Party Bus! Still hilarious. Party Bus! It's the Slith Party Bus! If you love the Slith Party Bus, you'll want to check out our other exciting products. We have the Rack Wiffle Ball Bat, the Trueborn, and the Blood Bride. Trueborn and Blood Bride models no longer available. The classic Slith Party Bus, still awesome, still hilarious. It's the Slith Party Bus!
Come here, boy, get the ball. Come on, Max, get the ball. Mom, Max won't get the ball. He's lazy.
I think I know why your Zote is being lazy, Jenny.
Why, Mom?
Because you forgot to feed him Zotabix today.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, Zotabix contains all the nutrients and random animal parts a growing Zote craves. It not only provides our Zote with the energy it needs to play with you and protect our home, but it also keeps its chitinous shell fresh and shiny.
Oh boy, I'd better feed Max his Zodabix.
Yes, you had.
Zodabix is made in part from grade
Max,
A
time for
Astra
dinner.
Militarum post-engagement byproduct and is infused with 112 essential vitamins
No,
and
Max,
minerals
down.
harvested from your Zote's natural habitat, the finest desert deathworms.
Ah!
Zodabix is available in any shopping center on worlds where Zotes are allowed or where the Imperium's inexorable influence has not yet reached. Welcome back. All right. Well, that's it. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was really great being able to phone this one in, wasn't it, Jason? Oh, man.
I'm glad to give you guys a break.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Well, you still have a lot of work to do, but I don't. I can log out. I can peace out.
Oh man, I've got to go through and edit that too. Come on, dude. All right. Let me see. Hold on. You're not going anywhere till I get that room in there.
I'm just trying to decide whether I want to put pants on or leave pants off when we go out back and play in the backyard.
I'm saying off, but that's just.
I feel like that's the right answer.
Okay,
I'd
good.
say pants are growing increasingly more optional as this continues.
It's true. It's very true. I started this episode with pants on, actually.
Oh no, I've been pants off the entire time.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's great.
Now our listeners can be slightly terrified, and you're
Yep.
welcome.
I don't know what the next episode is going to be on, but I can guarantee you I will still not be wearing any pants. But until then...
Play the game the way you want to.
Just make sure not to be wearing any pants. We'd love it if you could give us a positive rating and review on iTunes.
If you'd like to keep in contact with us, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter by searching for Masters of the Forge. And you can follow our hobby progress on Instagram with the hashtag Masters of the Forge.
You can also contact us at mastersoftheforge@gmail.com if you have any questions, topic suggestions, or if you'd like to advertise your creative hobby endeavor. Thanks again for listening.
The music used in this podcast was made by Podod of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog mastersoftheforge.com.
It's such a good feeling to play games your way. It's such a happy feeling 40K'ing away. And when you throw dice with story in mind, it's such a wonderful way to unwind. It's a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling you know that we'll be back when the fortnight's new, and we'll have new ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. We will too.